stand by. The vacuum tubes are warming up. This is a special live broadcast right here on Georgia Radio.
Well, I know deer season's over, but it is the time where everybody's starting to work on their food plots. They're starting to manage the land. And here to tell us about the Deer Management Assistance Program, which is something that I would venture to say a lot of landowners or folks that are managing land probably have no idea about it. And here's the guy that can tell us all about it. He's the program director, the state biologist for deer, Charlie Killmaster. Charlie, welcome to the Georgia Radio. Glad to have you on.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Talk to us about this deer management program, because this is pretty neat stuff where the state will actually get involved. And I know getting the government involved in your land is not something a lot of people want to talk about, but this is really, really neat stuff. You'll get involved and actually help out with some of the management, I guess, oversight on some of this stuff as far as managing the herd and managing the state's deer population on private lands.
That's right. We started this program back in 2019, really after a number of years of a growing desire from landowners and hunt clubs to have technical guidance to help them not only manage habitat for wildlife and especially deer, but also how to appropriately manage the deer herd or the deer population on those properties, how to collect data and use that information to inform management decisions on the property. So after a number of years of working through some of the law changes that were required and putting the funding in place, we were able to establish the program with a few biologists in 2019. And, we only had 3 biologists starting out, so we didn't advertise the program too much. And just word of mouth, we very quickly became overwhelmed with demand for the program. And as a result of that, we're hopefully going to be expanding the program with a few more biologists this year.
That's great news. Is there a cap on it? I mean, is it something that you have to reapply for every year, or are you able to support most of the request right now?
Well, we have a waiting list right now because of the demand, and we were down a couple of positions for a period of time, but we're staffed back up right now. But we don't have a cap per se, but once you're in the program, we have some people that join the program for the initial first year just to get the advice and the management plan, but they don't really require the ongoing management. And then we have others that like to renew every year and have that ongoing assistance and annual guidance from us. So we prioritize those people that are already in the program to renew the following years.
Now, there's no charge for this at the first level.
Right.
Because it's tiered.
Right. And the first, yeah. Right. That is just, and that's something the department has always done. If you call us and you have questions or need advice on management, we can give you whatever you need. We can point you in the right direction for some resources, but a lot of that is just the day-to-day, technical guidance that we do over the phone, and in some cases we'll do on site. But that's mostly the over the phone technical guidance for specific questions.
Well, it's good stuff because there's a newsletter that goes out. There's a number of a quarterly newsletter, I should say, just for your program here. But you're able to really deep dive into some of this stuff with your participants at certain levels. So 250 acres or more is sort of where the paid program begins. And it's not a lot of money. I mean, $200 and then $100 administrative fee gets you into this program. What are we looking at that second level?
Well, let's back up real quick. We do mention acreage minimums on there, but that only really applies to getting harvest flexibility beyond the normal seasons and bag limits, which is just a small component of the program. We'll allow any acreage at any level. It just depends on, the higher levels are more hands-on from us. But if you want to join at a higher level at a lower acreage, we can certainly accommodate that. It's just that the acreage minimums only come into play if we're authorizing additional deer harvest outside of the traditional bag limits for that area based on science for that property.
And so a hunting club might be interested in something like that when you start talking about raising the bag limits.
Right. So, well, with hunting clubs, oftentimes they have plenty enough members and they don't need any flexibility. They've got, with a 12 deer bag limit, they've got more than enough flexibility on there. But they all often operate at that management level too, because they don't have the ability, if they're on lease land and they don't have the ability to manage the timber. That's a huge component of the habitat management plan. So it wouldn't benefit them to be at like level 3 or 4, where we're getting intensive on the habitat recommendations for timber. So they could have a 3,000 or 4,000 acre hunt club and operate at the management level 2. That'd be more ideal based on what they're limited to, often food plots and maybe a little bit of habitat work here and there.
I want to talk about the habitat work in particular because this is fascinating to me, and it's a personal sort of passion of ours around here and wanting to grow habitat. What are some basic things that folks can do who, say, have land, maybe 100 acres or whatever, that enjoy hunting on it? What can we be doing habitat-wise to start off?
Thinning timber at appropriate intervals and burning. Those are the two primary habitat management operations that anyone could do. Burning especially is the most valuable habitat management tool that we have, and one of the cheapest that we have. A lot of people tend to focus a lot on food plots, but that's really supplemental. Your real habitat and the vast majority of the acreage oftentimes is the timber. So the timber management that you do is often really the core of the habitat for the property. And we look at the food plots as, icing on the cake or bridging nutritional gaps throughout the year, but they're not the main form of habitat.
When you start talking about burning, I know folks and a lot of landowners that get very nervous about doing any type of controlled burn on their own. What kind of resources are out there for folks who want to do this but don't have the understanding of how to do this properly?
So there's some training courses available. Your best option is to look at Georgia Forestry Commission. They offer burning assistance. I'm not sure what the training courses are for private landowners, but they offer a lot of assistance. Our private lands program helps out with some private burn workshops that we do for private landowners. There's a lot of opportunities there between our website, GeorgiaWildlife.com, and the Georgia Forestry Commission. But the Forestry Commission is the primary entity for prescribed fire, getting burn permits, and looking at fire weather. All of those kind of resources are going to be available with them.
And what's the best time of year to start looking at that kind of stuff?
Well, there's two primary windows that we look at for burning. There's cool season or dormant season burning that happens in the winter. That's where most of the burning takes place because it's a little easier to do it right and not have it get out of hand. But there are a tremendous amount of benefits for growing season burns that are later on into the spring that get a more effective top kill on the undesirable species like woody stems and promote more herbaceous growth.
All right. So, as we wrap this thing up, a lot of folks that I have talked to are really excited about building habitat, but I think they're going to be blown away by your thoughts here on burning and everything else. I want to know, as we wrap things up, what are you seeing data-wise come out of this program and the benefits?
So we get a lot of information at the property level. So we help the landowners and hunt clubs collect data from the population, and then we can use that information to help them determine the right number of deer they need to take off of the property on an annual basis. But more than anything, one of the most valuable parts that our cooperators find is annual site visits. We go and we tour the property with them and help them understand the best approaches to take in every sector of the property to manage it for wildlife based on their objectives and what they're trying to achieve. So that's a big component of this, is going out and doing the site visits and touring the individuals' properties with a biologist.
I think that's great. And, everybody's got that neighbor that you go out and you build food plots, you cultivate land, you plant trees, you do all this stuff, some probably doing the burning. And then it seems like about the week before season opens, you got that neighbor that brings in an 18-wheeler load of corn and just dumps it everywhere or whatever. Does this type of habitat that you're talking about cultivating, is it going to keep those deer and all of that wild game happy enough to stick around?
Yes. A lot of times what people perceive as those deer being pulled off of one property onto another are oftentimes normal seasonal shifts and movements that are going to occur regardless of what's happening there. But creating year-round good quality habitat conditions, not only food but adequate cover, are going to be the best things you can do to hold deer on the property. But with that said, deer do have seasonal home range shifts that are occurring naturally no matter what you're doing on your property. And typically on a smaller property, you're going to see deer, particularly bucks, that you can identify in the summertime that you're not going to see in the fall. And vice versa, you'll see bucks that come through in the fall that you didn't see all summer. That's just the normal operation of things and how deer move and utilize the landscape.
It just seems to happen right as the season opens. It's like they know.
Well, and
same with turkey.
Right, and yep. But that's a normal seasonal shift. The habitat conditions are changing as we shift from summer to fall, and they shift their patterns with that.
I got to ask, for the folks in the native plant societies around the state, how beneficial or what do you recommend on that in sticking with the natives? Have you seen that become helpful?
Well, that's what you do with thinning and burning. Burning promotes those native species that are already there in the seed bank. You don't need to plant a lot of native species. They're already there. They're just waiting for the right conditions. So that soil disturbance, those early or young herbaceous plants that come up that are highly nutritious to deer, they're gonna respond to that fire. So that's promoting native vegetation by doing that. Prescribed fire.
So what I'm hearing is you might not even have to plant. You might just need to burn.
There are a lot of properties that don't do any supplemental plantings. They maintain natural conditions managed predominantly through fire.
Well, Charlie, we got a lot to think about. I hope you'll come back. And
Absolutely.
Keep talking about this stuff. And we didn't even get, I got to ask you how you got into all this, because first time on the show, everyone's going to want to know, how did you fall into all this?
Well, I was an Eagle Scout and knew I wanted to do something outside, and my path took me from forestry to wildlife management. And as an undergraduate, I worked at the UGA Deer Research Facility and fell in love with deer at that time. And I've been the state deer biologist for Georgia now for over 17 years.
Charlie Killmaster, thanks for coming on. Sure appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Georgia Radio, on your phone, in your home, everywhere you go.